part of a comprehensive speech and language evaluation is looking at the person's structure of their like muscles and their what we call articulators, which are the structures that they use for speech. So the mouth, the lips, the tongue, even the uvula, and the way that we do this when we're assessing a student or a client is we do something called an oral mechanism exam, which is like I will ask the student to, stick their tongue out, move it side to side, make sure they're able to do that, make the correct movements necessary, open their mouth and say, kind of like when you go to the doctor and they have you do all this stuff. And they'll take a little flashlight and they'll look at the back of their throat to look at the uvula and look at the tonsils, make sure that they look like they're normal size, right? And so last year when I was conducting a speech and language evaluation on a student, I noticed a couple things. So in the background questionnaire that I sent to parents, it asks if the child snores, and the parent said that, yeah, she does snore. I noticed when working with this child that she has a habitual open mouth posture. So she breathes through her mouth. Her mouth is kind of always open. And I noticed her voice was a little breathy and she would take pauses to breathe in the middle of sentences, kind of like if she's not getting enough breath support um, for speaking. And so kind of putting the pieces together, when I reported out to the parent last year during the initial IEP meetings, I told her what my findings were. And I told her it looked like her tonsils were a little bit enlarged. And I know you said that she snores, when she sleeps. And sometimes that can cause that, like enlarged tonsils can cause the airway, to be narrower. So that could cause problems with breathing. But of course, I'm not a doctor. If you're interested in learning more about it, you could bring it up to your primary care doctor and see what they think about it. We as SLPs, some SLPs are in the medical field, right? They deal with swallowing and they really look at the more in depth at the life structures of the throat and everything that goes on there. But so some of us are medical professionals, and I could theoretically go that route if I wanted to. But for the past 2 years, I've been working with kids in a school, so it's a little different. What I can do is I can just go over my observations, but I can't say you need to get this looked at by a doctor, and I can't say I think this is what's causing this. I just kind of tell her what I observe, and it's up to the parent to decide. And so this year, because every year we have a meeting where we go over how the child's been progressing with their goals. So last week I had that meeting again with the same parent, and I asked her how things have been going, if there are any medical like problems, anything going on health wise. And she said no, but she basically thanked me, and she said that she did bring that up to the primary care doctor about the enlarged tonsils and the snoring and all of that. And they did a sleep study on the student and found that she does have sleep apnea. They think, so sleep apnea when you like stop breathing for short periods of time, and they think that the enlarged tonsils could have something to do with it. And so they have an appointment with an ENT doctor coming up to see if they need to be removed. And so little things like that make my day, because I feel like I'm really making a difference in a student's life. And then the day before, we had a meeting with what we would call like a high profile parent. And when it came time for me to speak, I did. I said my part. I told her about how the student was doing in speech. This is a student that that I got an AAC device for because he's minimally verbal. And then when I asked her if she had any questions for me, She said no, and she said that I was doing a wonderful job and that I play with him and that he loves going to speech. With a lot of these little ones, because he's in TK, with a lot of these little ones, I have to make my sessions very play based because um, they don't do so well with structure, um, and dealing with, and he's also on the spectrum, so they struggle sometimes to engage in non preferred tasks. So he's one of those kiddos that my session just basically looks like we're playing with toys while I'm working on speech and language skills with him. So I was really happy to hear that. Um, she also said that he's starting to talk more at home. And so it's things like these that, times like these, and little moments like these that I think I have to hang on to, and um, just they make my job and everything that I'm going through right now with working full time, um, and then going to school in the evenings and trying to balance being a mom and dealing with the reports and the meetings and homework. Little moments are what make all of this worth it. And I don't ever want to make it. I don't ever want to make it seem like being an SLP is the worst job in the world, because I think that it definitely has its rewarding aspects. And I'm bringing this up because I realize that a lot of my videos come off as like it's so overwhelming, it's too much, it's stressful, and like it is, And everybody has a different like stress tolerance, and maybe, some people can deal with it better than I can. I'm very type B, and my ADHD and inattention and difficulty with their organization, I think, really adds to how overwhelmed I feel all the time. But sometimes um, it's good to kind of take a step back and try to look at the positive things and the little things that make this job worth it, right? So I'm in it because I want to help the kids, and very rarely do I take the time to kind of stop and think about, okay, what's something positive that happened today that I can kind of be grateful for, and that I can just reflect on, because I tend to reflect a lot on the negative things going on in my life. Overall, I don't know. Overall, I think that's just my mindset. Um, and today I had an appointment with my therapist, and um, she was telling me that I spend a lot of my time being stuck in that traumatized child version of myself, and that we have to try to kind of spend more time in the adult self, which I don't feel like I spent enough time in, because half of the time I feel fragile, I feel weak, I feel like I don't know what I'm doing, I feel like a hot mess. I don't feel like I'm an adult, like a competent, normal adult, and I'm always an anxious mess. And she says that's because you're spending a lot of the time in that child wounded, version of yourself that we do have to obviously tend to, but we are going to try to more and more remind you of these things that you do, because you're a competent adult, because a child would not have been able to um, report those findings to the parent to kind of connect the dots and see what's going on. That was your adult self that did it. And I don't know, I guess I just have to remind myself that I can do hard things, and that even though there's a lot that I know, I still have to learn. There are some things that I do know and I can make a difference, even if that doesn't always ring true to me. So a lot of times it doesn't feel true, like these positive affirmations. I will say them to myself, but they don't feel like they're the truth. And I think because my core beliefs are so deeply embedded, and my core beliefs are really like more of these: I'm an imposter, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm a child, I'm helpless, I need someone else to take care of me. That is who I feel like I am at my core. And dismantling that and changing how I view myself and the way that I think about myself, um, is is definitely going to take some time. So, yeah, I will be back.